Hello, ladies and gentlemen, I am Espionic.
I'm your Super 4.
And we are going to be discussing the presentation for Nintendo's newest console, the Nintendo Switch. We received a lot of information about the capabilities of the Nintendo Switch and quite a number of games that are making their way to the system as well, so let's get to it because, God, there's so much to talk about.
Yeah.
So, starting with the Nintendo Switch hardware itself, it's launching on March 3rd, 2017, which is earlier than I think a lot of people expected. And it's going to have MSRP of $299.99, which... Okay, just to get this out of the way, why are people complaining about the price?
Because how dare Nintendo ask for money, right? That's essentially what it is.
I really don't understand it. How come Sony is allowed to have a console that launches at $400 and stayed at $400 for most of its life so far, but how dare Nintendo have a $300 console?
Apparently, according to people, the specs they had, you should just have it be $150 and that'd be perfectly cheap and affordable because...
Well, most people wanted it to be $250, and I'm just, like... I think $300 is a perfectly fair price. Especially considering all the things that they're doing with this system. Like, I don't know, people are stupid. But anyway, getting into the online services, there will be a smartphone app that will let you set play appointments, invite friends, and chat with them, but this and online gameplay will both be paid services, just like with PlayStation Plus and Xbox Live. Now, I'm more understanding towards this complaint, paying for online multiplayer and everything, but here's the deal. We don't know what all of Nintendo's online services will entail. People have always complained about Nintendo's online infrastructure and services, even though it was free for the past 2 generations.
I didn't really get why people complained about it. Like, it wasn't like if you were paying for it, I would understand. I can understand you not being impressed or happy with it, but like, also some part you have to respect. That's kind of the end result. We got it for free.
Yeah, the fact that Nintendo is going to be charging for that now tells me that the online services are going to be better. That's what you all want, right? Better online connection stability for your games. And remember, Nintendo has DNA working on the online infrastructure, and I think the operating system for the Nintendo Switch. Online infrastructure seems to be DNA's strong suit, and we don't even know how much they'll plan on charging for their online services. For instance, when Pokemon Bank was revealed and ended up being a paid service, people were so outraged, and then we find out it was only $5 a year. And well, and even then, people were still outraged by that for some moronic reason. Like, even if you're like a kid with an allowance, you should be able to afford that. I don't think Nintendo's online service is going to be $5 per year, but it could be lower priced than what Sony and Microsoft's services are. There might be some extra perks to the service that we don't know about. And at least the first several months of the Nintendo Switch's lifespan is going to have free online gameplay. My ultimate point is, at least wait until you see exactly what you're getting before you start complaining about this. If the online service for the Switch turns out to be basically like the online services for the Wii and Wii U, then and you have to pay for that, then yeah, you should complain about that. But right now, you don't know, so just wait and see. Next, it sounds like the Nintendo Switch will be a region-free console. This really means nothing for me. I don't import video games ever, so...
I don't either.
So it makes no difference to me if it was region-free or not, but for people who wanted a region-free Nintendo console, congratulations, looks like you're getting what you wanted. There's actually a concern I had with the Nintendo Switch being region-free, but based on the planned releases for some of these games, I'm starting to think that it's not going to be an issue. It's kind of difficult for me to explain, but I kind of feel like having a region-free console gives you, as a developer, less of a reason to localize certain games or release games at a more simultaneous rate. I want Nintendo to be able to localize and release games more simultaneously in all the regions, and based on the fact that some of these games seem like they're planned for release in 2017 in all major regions, I think they're doing just that, which is great. So we got a confirmation about the battery life. The battery life will be conditional upon the game being played, and it will range from 2.5 to 6.5 hours. People have been complaining about it, specifically the lower end of the battery life range, but they said it's going to depend on the game. So if you're playing an NES or SNES game in handheld mode, that's when you're going to get the 6.5 hours from the battery, which sounds like plenty of time to me. But a game like Breath of the Wild or Skyrim is going to be on the 2.5 or 3 hour range. And depending on how much time you have to play when you're out and about, that might be fine. If you travel a lot for business or something, 2.5 hours might be all the time you have anyway. And in the case of Breath of the Wild, you could use that time to do some smaller tasks. You could use that time for hunting, for cooking, for collecting materials. You know, preparation for some big adventures you have ahead of you, which you can then take care of once you get home and start playing on a big screen. Heck, you could clear a few shrines as long as you can get to them in time. I'm not necessarily making a case for the lower end of the battery life. I just think there are ways to manage that time with games that have lower battery life. So I think that overall range could be a serviceable battery life. And the Switch will come with an AC adapter, so you can play while it's charging.
So the worst case scenario, if you're far out from somewhere, you could at least get along, get the foresight to bring your adapter with you. You would be fine in that. In that case, you just only brought the Switch as it is with you.
Now, many of the ways you can play the Nintendo Switch they showed during the presentation, they were also shown in the reveal trailer back in October, but they confirmed during the presentation that the Nintendo Switch will have Wi-Fi local multiplayer for up to 8 players, and that's going to be great for a number of games they announced for the Switch. When the Nintendo Switch was first revealed back in October, they didn't show any usage of touchscreen and motion controls, but they confirmed that both of these things will be part of the system, which makes me so happy. I really do think that both of these innovations made a number of games better, so I'm really glad that they are still around and that Nintendo didn't get rid of them just because certain people don't want to use them. Both the Nintendo Switch Pro Controller and the Joy-Cons will have motion control capabilities. And they spent a lot of time talking about the Joy-Cons, probably because of how much tech they put into them. The right Joy-Con has the NFC reader-writer, so that's where you'll use any amiibo you have. I wasn't expecting the NFC reader-writer to be on the right Joy-Con of all things. I thought it was going to be on the Nintendo Switch screen, just like with the new Nintendo 3DS.
Yeah, the Nintendo 3DS can read a amiibo about you just placing it on the screen.
On the touch screen.
On the touch screen. I didn't think they would think to just put it on the right stick.
Either way, it 100% confirms Amiibo's support for the Nintendo Switch. The square-shaped button on the left Joy-Con, it's on the Switch Pro Controller as well. It's a capture button that will allow you to capture screenshots of games, and in the future will let you record videos of gameplay. And you can share screenshots and videos via social media, which is all pretty sweet. On the bottom of the right Joy-Con, there is a motion IR camera which can detect motion, shape, and distance. The Joy-Con will have and I recently found out that the Pro Controller will have this as well. They'll have what Nintendo is calling HD Rumble, which will simulate much more realistic force force feedback, such as being able to feel how many ice cubes are in a cup and water being poured into the cup. When I saw this, I was just thinking, how is this possible? How is this even possible?
Look, I can't ever think. I haven't really used Rumble in a while, because after a while, like playing Wonderful 101, it kind of made my hands numb after a while. It's kind of annoying. But I still kind of, even though I don't really like using Rumble, that was still a thing that I found so bizarre, that you can make something, you can have a Rumble that feels like someone can resemble someone like that.
I could see some really creative applications for this HD Rumble. It's sort of a virtual reality alternative, I think. Instead of enhancing the look of the game, it enhances the feel of the game. For a shooting game, you can feel the recoil of a gun when it's being fired. You can feel the impact of stabbing something with a sword.
Or clashing with something.
I just thought of like a really stupid application. I don't think I should mention it. It has to do with Xenoblade Chronicles. I think that's all I need to tell you. Do I need to elaborate?
No, you don't have to. Look, there's your Senran Kagura reference.
I think I'll probably be mentioning the Senran Kagura a few times during this, but in addition to the gray Joy-Con controllers, there will be a color variation of the pair of Joy-Cons, with the left one being colored neon blue and the right one colored neon red. And there are Joy-Con wrist straps, which is included in the product packaging.
What makes the Joy-Con, and you can also add them there to make your Joy-Con a little bigger if you're worried about crushing it with your hand.
You know, in terms of playing it on its side, I've been kind of like testing it out with the DVD remote because it's pretty small, and holding it that way, it actually doesn't feel uncomfortable to me.
Yeah.
I mean, it's hard to tell when you're doing it for a long time and moving the control stick and pressing buttons, but I don't know, we'll see. I think it actually will be better than some people might think it will be. The thing I'm personally most negative about when it comes to the hardware is how expensive these accessories are when sold separately. I think the Joy-Con grip and AC adapter are both $30 each. One Joy-Con I think is $50. Both of the Joy-Cons together are $80. The Pro Controller is $70. The dock is apparently $90. I know video game controllers in general are expensive, but these controllers are more expensive than I thought they would be when seeing them for the first time. There is a lot of tech in these controllers, though. Even the Pro Controller, it has gyroscopic sensors and a great battery life. Not as good as the Wii U Pro Controllers, but 40 hours is still great. The dock being $90 sounds absolutely ridiculous, though. I mean, it's cool that you can have extra docks for every television you have in your house if you wanted that. I don't think we need any of the extra accessories anytime soon anyway. The Nintendo Switch technically comes with like 5 controllers if you think about it. And the Joy-Con grip setup looks perfectly fine as a Pro Controller substitute. If I really do find it to be too weird, then maybe I'll just get the Pro Controller. Let's get to talking about some of the games that they announced for the system, starting off with 1-2 Switch. It's a mini-game collection that focuses more on you interacting with the Joy-Con and your opponents and looking at the screen, which I think is actually really interesting. It's extremely simplistic, but really innovative and unique. I think it's the perfect party game, and it is a launch title. I think it would be great for internet videos and streams. Those could be funny to watch, but
you're your friend just playing, channeling your inner ocelot to shoot someone. But
it's not a console bundle game, which I think is a missed opportunity, and the game itself is $50. I don't really think people are going to pay $50 for this. I don't think the game will do well sold on its own at $50. Nintendo might end up bundling it later, we don't know, but I think it should be a bundle title. Maybe they could bundle it with the Joy-Con, sort of like how Wii Play was bundled with Wii Remotes back in the day. Next, they show a game simply known as ARMS. It's a new IP from Nintendo, and it's a fighting game in which characters use extendable arms to attack. Each of the playable characters can use different types of arms that each have different effects, and you can mix and match what type of arms you have on each hand. You can have both arms be boxing gloves, you can have one boxing glove arm and one boomerang arm, you can have two boomerang arms, and that's on top of all the characters having their own attributes and traits. It's kind of crazy. The game was mostly showcased with Joy-Cons in a similar manner to Wii Boxing with motion controls, but it has been confirmed during the Nintendo Treehouse livestream that you can play with traditional controls as well. In fact, that was something I kind of felt was said a number of times during the Nintendo Treehouse livestream, that if you prefer a traditional controller, you can use it. I think it's excellent that they brought back and look to have improved motion controls with the Joy-Cons, along with emphasizing that you can still use traditional controls with these games, because I think motion controls are great and they improve the number of different games, but so many people just absolutely refuse to play with motion controls. So
because
I love they
filthy casuals.
So I love that they can satisfy both crowds. And I think part of the reason for that is because since the big gimmick with this thing is that you can play your home console games as a handheld, they would have to have the traditional controls for that.
Because, though technically you could play ARMS the way with the Joy-Con that you're holding your Joy-Con like the Wii Remote and Nunchuck as a handheld.
You technically can do that if you wanted to.
But I wouldn't do that. But because I would like to see some people's reactions seeing that in a public place. So I was like, "What are you doing? I'm trying to beat up Mummy Man." Like,
looking at ARMS sort of reminded me of Splatoon, and it's in the sense that it's a new IP. It has these crazy character designs. It's colorful. It has very ridiculous, unique gameplay. The question, I guess, is, will it take off like Splatoon did? I think it definitely can, because remember right before Splatoon came out, it had everything going against it.
Yeah.
The Wii U's low install base, the controversy over the US commercial, and the lack of voice chat. People were saying that they were going to boycott this game, and it managed to be a big hit. So with ARMS, I mean, people always complain about Nintendo not making enough new IPs. This is a new IP. It's an original fighting game that has original characters. It's not like Smash Brothers, where they have it as a Nintendo All-Star fighting game. And very shortly after it was revealed, one of the characters, Ribbon Girl, was subjected to Rule 34. Oh. That alone, I think ARMS is halfway there to being successful.
Yeah, but all you need is one female character and just play with Rule 34.
I'm not entirely sold on the game yet, but I do want to try it out. It does look fun. It's coming out spring 2017, so not too long after the Switch's launch.
See what they did there?
Oh yeah, we just learned this the day before recording this, but ARMS is actually being directed by the same person who directs the Mario Kart series, and I think that EPD group created Nintendogs as well, so that's cool to see them doing something new. But since I mentioned Splatoon, let's talk about the sequel, Splatoon 2.
You're a squid again, you're a kid again, you're a squid again.
When it was shown in the Switch reveal trailer, I thought it was a sequel, you thought it was a sequel, a lot of people were thinking it was a sequel, and it turns out that it is a sequel, and I'm glad that it is.
I don't know why people thought that was a port. People thought this was going to be a port. When they first saw it in that October thing, I didn't think it was a port. I'm like, no, those characters' models look way too more new. They had new animations, new everything. I'm like, you don't do that with a 1.5 edition.
Yeah, precisely. The game has some returning weapons, but it has some new weapons. It has entirely new specials. None of the specials from Splatoon 1 are returning.
No Kraken.
And a new rolling dodge maneuver.
Well, I thought it was only when you had the two guns.
Hmm.
I think you only have that when you have the two guns.
I wasn't sure. I didn't. I noticed that. Well, that either way, that's new.
I'll probably like using the two guns the whole way through because I like being gunslinger.
You know, on my channel, I've done 2 videos on an upcoming game that is somewhat like Splatoon, and that's Senran Kagura Peach Beach Splash. And a couple of things in Splatoon 2 made me think of Peach Beach Splash. One of the specials in Splatoon 2 is a jetpack. There's something similar to that in Peach Beach Splash. Inklings, like I mentioned, a dodge roll in Splatoon 2, and well, in Peach Beach Splash, it's not really a dodge roll, but they can dodge sort of like the typical Senran Kagura dodge move in the main series. But it's kind of funny that a couple of new elements in Splatoon 2 remind me a little bit of Peach Beach Splash. I'm glad that in Japan, Peach Beach Splash is coming out several months before Splatoon 2, but because Splatoon 2 would have buried that game.
It probably would. Yeah.
Because Splatoon 2 is going to be huge for Nintendo. Splatoon 2 is scheduled to release this summer, which I think Splatoon 2 is such a perfect summer title. It captures the essence of summer so well.
Like kids get out of school and they shoot each other with ink.
I mean, Peach Beach Splash does that better, but that's coming out in March in Japan, so...
I like how essentially this is like 2 years after everything from the first game, which...
Yeah, actually I was just about to mention, there are 2 things that I really want to see with this game. I want to see if all of the shops and services in the game require an internet connection, because that was by far the most annoying thing about Splatoon 1, that I literally couldn't use any of the services in Inkopolis because
you had to be online. I can understand being online. I understand this is an online game, but do you really need to go into a basic shop to buy shit online? What are you? You're not using like real life money. You're using in-game stuff. What? Do you use in-game your real life money?
I hope that won't be the case for Splatoon 2. Knowing my luck, it will be. But the other thing, and the big thing for me, is the single player campaign. Splatoon 1 had such a great single player campaign, even though it was kind of short. I really want to see a bigger, fuller single player campaign. And as you mentioned before, the only details that we have about the story is that it takes place 2 years after the events of Splatoon 1. I see what you did there, Nintendo.
Because this game took this is 2 years. This is literally. I kind of like that. It is like 2 years literally after the first game was created.
Once I see a bigger single player campaign, that's when I'm really going to get hyped for Splatoon 2.
And also like that Judd has a kid. It has to be like a Judd has a kid.
Because of the innovations of the Nintendo Switch, you can do local 4v4 matchups now along with the online multiplayer, which couldn't be done in the original Splatoon, and
yeah,
that's awesome. Too bad I don't personally know anybody who plays Splatoon, but that is a really great feature.
Because like the original, there was a two-player mode, but not a lot of people used it because who really cared.
Splatoon 2 is going to have in-game events. I'm going to assume that Splatfest falls under that category, and stage and weapon updates after launch, like what they did with the original Splatoon. I hope that doesn't mean that Splatoon 2's content will be light at launch, but I do think it's great that they are rolling out content like that again.
Like because they already have like the basis of the modes. If they're unless they're gonna get rid of all the other modes and not have like say tower control or rainmaker or splat zone, or they're gonna keep just the basic turf war as the default and make up new modes for this one.
Anyway, let's move on to the game that stole the show for me and many other people based on reactions I've seen online. Well, unless Breath of the Wild stole the show for you, and I do not blame you one bit if that was the case, but yeah, Super Mario Odyssey, oh my god, this game is insane. But my reaction looking at the first shot of the city area, New Donk City, I was pretty sure it was the 3D Mario game we saw in the Switch reveal trailer, because I remember seeing the crazy cap shop sign in that trailer, and it was there in this trailer. And I noticed the street crossing lights that had a question mark on it, like the question mark blocks, and I was thinking, yeah, this is Mario, but then I noticed the citizens of the city, and they're more realistically proportioned, and then I thought, wait, why are there realistic-looking people in a Mario game?
Did Mario jump out of the TV?
Is this Sonic Adventure or something?
The thought was Mario. I'm like, did Mario just jump out of a TV? And like,
then Mario popped out of the sewer,
like
twirls his hat on his finger, and starts running around the city while passing by these more realistic-looking people.
And no one's
and I'm just thinking,
eye to the little plumber man.
And I'm just thinking, what is this game?
Like, no one says anything about the plumber man. Okay.
Then they started showing off other areas like the icy desert with Mexican influence we saw back in the Switch reveal.
The cactus, the people with sugar skulls. What are those things called? The sugar. Do you remember?
I know what you're talking about. I don't know if they have like an actual name, but they showed the biodome area. They showed the crystallized kitchen / vegetable garden area, and I was just amazed by all of this. Then I saw Bowser, and I just started laughing at his outfit. He's supposed to be dressed as a wedding groom, but he straight up looked like a pimp in that trailer. And then I saw Mario's hat toss move, and how Mario could use his hat as a platform after he tossed it. And I was just thinking, wow, that is so awesome.
Like, Kung Lao wishes he had a hat like this.
That and seeing him riding the Sphinx in the icy desert, at that point I was just like, I really want to play this game. I absolutely really want to play this game. I knew from the get-go that this was not going to be a launch title. I figured holiday 2017, and lo and behold, it is coming out holiday 2017, and I'm fine with that. As much as I want to play this game, I want Nintendo to make sure it's all nice and ready. I think after the Switch reveal trailer, you were the one who brought up the idea of this game being sort of like Sonic Unleashed, where Mario would be traveling through various real-world locations, and it looks like you were sort of right.
At first, I thought it was, well, for a long time, I thought it was Super Mario Land. I thought they were making a 3D Super Mario Land, only because of what I saw in the October trailer, was like, okay, there's a heart there, you're going through the worlds, the closest thing, even though they had a different name, it's still a bullet bill, but you're going through real worlds. Hearts were 1-ups in that game. And I thought it was just a 3D Mario Land, but not like Super Mario 3D Land, or I meant like an actual Mario Land.
The interesting thing for me is that Super Mario 3D World is my favorite Mario game of all time, and unless they make another game like it, it's always going to be my favorite Mario game, because I generally prefer 2D Mario games over 3D Mario games. I mean, I definitely prefer 2D platformers over 3D platformers, period. 2D platformers are my favorite genre of video games, and 3D World combined the elements that I loved and grew up with the 2D Mario games with the elements that I learned to appreciate and enjoy from 3D Mario games. It has practically everything that I love about Mario in one game. Super Mario Odyssey isn't doing that. In fact, they confirmed that this game is going to be more of a sandbox 3D platformer like Super Mario 64 or Super Mario Sunshine, but I like that they're doing that for this game, because Sunshine came out 15 years ago. That was the last time they did a game like that, and people wanted a Mario game like this for a long time, and even though I had more of a personal and immediate hype when 3D World was revealed, yes, I know I'm in the absolute minority in thinking that way, shut up. I'm really glad that they are going in this direction, because this is what a lot of people wanted, and I really am hyped for this. I made a comment on the Active Gamer Life video when Red Knight was talking about Super Mario Odyssey, and I said that it has more of the open world sandbox design of 64 and Sunshine. It has a majestic presentation and crazy level motif of Galaxy and Galaxy 2, and it has the art style and visual personality of 3D Land and 3D World, and he agreed with my assessment of that game. I can tell that this game is running off of 3D World's engine, but it's been updated to make this game look even more gorgeous than 3D World and kept it to a treasure tracker. I mean, 3D World already looked beautiful. Captain Toad Treasure Tracker looked even better. And this game looks even better than both of them. And kind of going back to drawing parallels to Galaxy, Galaxy begins with Bowser raising Princess Peach's castle off the ground and into the sky, like how Paper Mario's story begins, and now with Odyssey, the story revolves around Bowser trying to marry Peach, which is sort of how Super Paper Mario began. It's just amusing to me that...
But that was caused by Count Black.
Yeah,
Bowser's kind of dressed
like. I know. It wasn't like Bowser was actively going for that, but Count Black set it up and Bowser was like, yeah, okay, let's do this.
Because he's an idiot. You think you'd be suspicious that this random guy with no body, who Bowser's kind of dressed like, by the way, is that just me? He's dressed like Count. Kind of made you think he's dressed like Count Black.
The white suit, I guess. Yeah. I can see where you're going from. Also, I have to make mention that I love New Donk City just for the numerous references to the Donkey Kong series. In that Game Explain video where they pointed out the sign that said Dixie Street, I had a bit of a phantasm. I love Dixie Kong oh so much. Just seeing the Donkey Kong being referenced in a main series Mario game is kind of strange, but awesome.
I got over there how the music that plays when you're in the city level from Donkey Kong 94.
I'm kind of thinking that maybe they'll have like a remix of, some sort of remix of a Donkey Kong theme that kind of fits with a city sort of thing.
Well, that's what they did when they put Mount Mustache in 3D World and they played a remix of Mario Circuit.
Yeah, this is the Nintendo Switch game I'm most excited for right now, even more than Breath of the Wild, because while Breath of the Wild looks absolutely phenomenal and it's doing so many clever, innovative, and unprecedented things, and the trailer for it from this presentation is one of the best video game trailers, if not the best video game trailer of all time. I'm more of a Mario fan than a Zelda fan. Granted, Breath of the Wild is not your typical Zelda game in any sense of the phrase, but Mario is my second favorite video game franchise of all time, right behind Pokemon. Mario's my childhood. Mario's been a part of my life since I was 2 years old, so that's really the main reason why I'm just slightly more excited for Super Mario Odyssey. I'm so looking forward to it. So, one of the numerous surprises that came from this presentation was Xenoblade Chronicles 2. I was sort of taken off guard when the Monolith Soft logo showed up in the presentation, but then I remember that I heard that the wife of the executive director, I think, of all of Monolith Soft games, Tetsuya Takashi, his wife, she retweeted the Nintendo Switch presentation like the day before, and when the Monolith Soft logo showed up in the presentation, I remembered that she retweeted various Nintendo Directs or presentations the day before the fact, and whenever she did that, there would be big Monolith Soft news in that Direct or event. So, seeing the logo surprised me at first, but then I remembered that retweet it, and then I thought, oh wait, I should have seen this coming. But what really surprised me is that it's a direct sequel to Xenoblade Chronicles. From what I've seen, Xenoblade Chronicles X is about creating your own character. It has less of a focus on story and more on a focus on open world exploration, and it's sort of MMO-like. And the original Xenoblade Chronicles had more of a focus on story and RPG elements overall, and you're playing as an established main character in the form of Shulk, so I guess they might be sort of establishing a sub-series, I guess, with Xenoblade Chronicles X and differentiating it from Xenoblade Chronicles 1 and 2 being the main series, and it could be a great way to satisfy both types of fans, because I've seen a lot of people say that they prefer the original Xenoblade Chronicles. I've seen some people say they prefer Xenoblade Chronicles X. I'm also really surprised that we're seeing more of this franchise so soon, because X came out in 2015. I didn't think we would see Monolith Soft's next game until 2018 at the earliest. I certainly wouldn't have expected to see in this presentation aside from that retweet, but the most surprising thing about this game is that it's scheduled to release in 2017 not only in Japan, but in the West as well. That is freaking insane. I mean, it could end up being delayed to 2018. I wouldn't be surprised at all if it did, but you don't announce a massive game like Xenoblade to come out the same year you announce it unless you're pretty confident that it is coming out the same year. Like, that's just wow. I'm inclined to believe that it might just release this year because of that. It's really cool to see that Xenoblade Chronicles is starting to grow as a franchise, because people fought tooth and nail to get the first game released outside of Japan, and to see that looks like it's starting to become a mainstay for Monolith Soft and Nintendo, that's just awesome for Xenoblade fans. I saw a couple of comments on the trailer for Xenoblade Chronicles 2 saying that they now feel that Xenoblade is Nintendo's Final Fantasy. It looks to be that way.
Yeah.
I love that's how literally the only thing you said about this game.
Well, I kind of want to. Well, I'm also hoping for another Nopon party member, because Ricky is best character. Hero Pon is love.
I love
Hero
that's your only input for this game.
But I guess I kind of have Cherry Conroy tonight for that, for making out, because he's him doing all those things made me really appreciate a character like Ricky.
I like all of Shulk and all of his party members.
Yeah.
I guess I usually just say Charlotte is my favorite, though, just because she's very, very easy on the eyes. Speaking of franchises becoming mainstays for Nintendo, after Xenoblade Chronicles 2, they announced what I'm going to say after Super Mario Odyssey and The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. This is currently my personal third most hyped game coming to the Nintendo Switch. Fire Emblem Warriors, which is also coming to the new Nintendo 3DS, I should mention. Wouldn't have expected that, but... So, when I saw the Koei Tecmo logo show up, I instantly started thinking to myself, please say we're getting Fire Emblem Warriors. Then when I saw the Omega Force and Team Ninja logos, I was just like, oh god, please be Fire Emblem Warriors. And the second I saw Chrom and Lucina's Falchion, I was like, oh my god, it's Fire Emblem Warriors, yes!
Like, you saw the Falchion, you see Omega Yato.
No, that was just Yato.
No, sorry, yeah, just Yato. So, you see Xander Ryoma swords, you see the original Falchion. You see the 5 jewels that make up the Fire Emblem.
You know, ever since Hyrule Warriors was starting to get some real hype to it, like, I think when it was shown in Famitsu a couple of weeks before E3 2014, people started to get genuinely excited for Hyrule Warriors, and I think that's when I started hearing from some people saying, they should have made it a Fire Emblem Warriors. Fire Emblem fits with the Warrior style so much better than Zelda. Actually, that's what you were saying, too.
I was surprised that they're like... Well, it was only because people at Koei wanted to make it, or were fans of The Legend of Zelda, so they asked guys at Nintendo, like, hey, can we put a game that is a Warrior-style game using characters from The Legend of Zelda? And, like, people at The Legend of Zelda, people developing at Nintendo, like, they were going to ask them to do the same thing after seeing, like, I think Pirate Warriors.
Shortly after Hyrule Warriors was revealed, you went out of your way to look up gameplay of Dynasty Warriors 8 and other Warriors games, and after you looked pretty extensively at those games, you started thinking Fire Emblem would be a much better fit.
Where there's like, I would never say, I was still stoked for Hyrule Warriors, but I was surprised they didn't make it choose like the character like Fire Emblem, because Fire Emblem has a lot of characters.
And after I saw some of the Dynasty and Samurai Warriors games and doing a little bit of research on Fire Emblem, I think Fire Emblem is the most perfect series to get a Musou makeover. And after playing Hyrule Warriors in 2014 and playing Senran Kagura Shinobi Versus, which is actually very, very similar to a Warriors game, I've been playing that for almost a year now, continuing to 100% that game. I've become a big fan of that style of game, not to mention after E3 2014 when Lucina and Robin were confirmed for Smash 4, seeing that Fire Emblem was getting a lot of attention in Smash Brothers with having 4 fighters from the Fire Emblem series and then later bringing back Roy and adding Corrin before Fire Emblem Fates came out in the West. I really like the character designs for Fire Emblem. In fact, when Corrin was revealed in Fire Emblem Fates, I immediately loved the design. Very specifically the female design of Corrin. I don't even play Fire Emblem, but I guess just seeing so much of Fire Emblem in general for the past 3 years, coupled with loving the designs of the characters, seeing just how perfect of a fit Fire Emblem is with a Musou-style game, and becoming such a big fan of that gameplay, I started to really relish the idea of a Fire Emblem Warriors game and playing around with those characters. I really wanted it to happen, and now that it is, I'm so stoked. In the Nintendo Switch presentation, we only got a teaser for this, but since then we've had a Fire Emblem themed Nintendo Direct, which did have an actual gameplay trailer for Fire Emblem Warriors, and while we didn't get much gameplay, what they showed us looked great. Just the way that Chrom was able to wipe out all those opposing soldiers looks so awesome. And the graphics of the game, I think, look really good. Chrom's character model looks great. It is kind of weird to me that Chrom ended up being the first character shown off for the game. As someone who doesn't play Fire Emblem, I always think of Marth as the Fire Emblem guy. I'm sure Marth is still going to be a playable character in the game, but I guess they show...
I feel like he should be, because, well, people would say, well, and there might be people who are saying, hey, they technically showed Marth because Chrom is a descendant from him. Nobody likes a smartass.
But I guess they showed Chrom first because he's the protagonist of Awakening, which is the game that rejuvenated and saved the series. Getting into characters that will probably be in the game, there are many, many, many characters they could add in this game. The trailers, they showed some of the characters' weapons, like you mentioned before.
You see Yato, which belongs to Corrin.
You mentioned Ryoma and Xander's swords, and the original Falchion, which is Marth's sword, so I think they're all going to be playable characters in the game. Also, the Falchion is also used by... That first Falchion is used by Lucina as well. So I think they're all probably going to...
hers is called the Parallel Falchion. Because there's only supposed to be one Falchion, actually, but since he's from the future, spoilers.
Either way, I think they're probably all going to be playable characters, and I personally think that the Fire Emblem fighters that are in Smash 4 that we haven't mentioned yet, Roy, Ike, and Robin, I think they would be shoo-ins for this game too. I think Lynn will probably be in the game. She's an assist trophy in Brawl and in Smash 4. I know she's a fan favorite. She was always a character that I've seen people say that they really wanted as a fighter in Smash, so I think she's got a really great shot at being in this game. I think Alm and Celico might be in this game too, for reasons we'll get into later.
Yeah.
Now, even though I'm not an actual Fire Emblem fan, there are characters I personally want to see in the game. I'm sure she's a shoo-in, but I want Lucina mostly because she's actually one of my mains in Smash 4. She just seems like a really cool character. It's another shoo-in, but I want Corrin, and I hope I can play as female Corrin because I love her design, and Corrin's abilities could translate really well for a Warriors game.
You have a character that can turn into a dragon.
I really want Camilla in this game, and I don't think I need to explain why. Come on, Team Ninja, you're involved in this game. Just look at Camilla. You know you want to.
Like, it's all Sia. Like, that was you just doing it with a character you made up. Like, you don't say you can't, like...
I think purely out of principle, I'd be disappointed if a Fire Emblem spinoff done by Team Ninja didn't have Camilla in it. And Tharja, too.
Hell, it'd be disappointing they didn't even have Tharja.
And for a much less obvious choice from a non-Fire Emblem fan, I mentioned what I knew about Hector to you. He's also a really popular character choice, too. That I think I might have seen him as a sticker of... I might have seen him as a sticker in Brawl, and I remember that he had an axe. You mentioned that there is this female character with an axe, and she doesn't take crap from anybody. And I'm like, I want her in this game.
She had a face that says, don't fuck with me.
You didn't even immediately tell me her name or showed me what she looked like, but I already wanted her in the game. Yeah. Apparently her name is Titania. Sorry for mispronunciations there, but you found a picture of her and showed her to me. That just further affirmed that I wanted Titania in this game. I don't know which game she's from. I don't know how popular she is. I don't care. I legitimately want Titania to be in this game. I'm dead serious. What about you? Who do you want to see?
Well, that was a character I wanted to see because I really liked her design, and I liked the idea that we would have an axe woman. That isn't Lizzie Borden. And well, I also like characters I like to see would be like someone like Ike. And I would like to see Ike and Roy because they're characters I ended up liking when I saw them in Smash Brothers. Well, I like Ike's Final Smash, and I liked how they brought Roy back in Smash 4, where they have Roy Koopa. He just smacks him out of here like, get the shit out of here. I'm the OD. I'm the OC.
Now, I wanted to bring up something that I haven't seen people bring up, but I'm sure somebody's somewhere has brought this up, but one big thing that could be done with Fire Emblem Warriors to differentiate it from Hyrule Warriors, there is this variation of the typical Warriors games called Empires. I think Yoshi Prower should explain what this is, since he's far more familiar with Dynasty and Samurai Warriors. So, for those who don't know about Empires, tell them about it.
Okay, the Empires games were, I think they were made by like around 5 or 6 after. The Dynasty Warriors games had the regular game. Extreme Legends would add new characters and new weapons for some characters. I know that was the case in like 8. And Empires, where you created a character and you pretty much acted out. You essentially had a Romance of the Three Kingdoms fan fiction, where you made a character who beat the crap out of Lu Bu and then married Wan Yuan Ji. You can essentially have something like that happen in your game.
But there are also the stratagems, I think.
They made various stratagems where you could, but I also kind of joked that they made Fire Emblem game, they just got like LOL Blade Storm. That was based on the 100 Years' War.
But what I'm getting at is, like, they added more of a strategy and depth layer to the Warriors games, where you...
Not just in terms of battle, but also how you choose to interact with people. Like, particularly like 8 Empires, where your virtue was important on who would stick with you and who would just leave. Like, if you were a good person, someone like Liu Bei would be more inclined to stick around. If you were like a bad person, he wouldn't. Like, they would either just leave, or if you're a ruler, they take arms against you. And Fire Emblem, how you interact with characters is important.
And aren't there, like, playable scenarios that can have it where the officer characters can die permanently?
Yeah, you can have an officer death on, where you can kill them. Or if you're if you're overusing a character, you can run the chance of them getting killed in battle.
Doesn't that all sound so perfect for a Fire Emblem Warriors game? Like, Empires adds quite a layer of depth and strategy to the Warriors games, and I'm not sure if I would love it all that much, but for Fire Emblem fans, I think they would love if Fire Emblem Warriors had the elements of the Empires games. I think it's a perfect fit. Also, like you mentioned before, the way they released Dynasty Warriors games, they'll have for example, they'll release Dynasty Warriors 8, then they'll release Dynasty Warriors 8 Extreme Legends, and then they'll release Dynasty Warriors 8 Empires before moving on to Dynasty Warriors 9. That's how they do it, right?
That's usually how they did it.
Well, we have Hyrule Warriors. We have Hyrule Warriors Legends. Isn't that basically Extreme Legends?
Yeah, because they added characters, and they gave a new weapon type for Ganondorf, the Trident, which is awesome.
And granted, this is a crossover with a different Nintendo franchise, but it would kind of match up with how they do iterations of Dynasty Warriors. This is the third Nintendo Musou crossover game. It's just a thought. I think it would be a big missed opportunity if they didn't do that, but who knows? I guess we'll see before the game releases this fall.
But like I also meant to say, for all we know, though, it could probably just be like, I'm not sure if this will be like his own original story, or essentially they could have like just essentially scenarios. Like in the basic Dynasty Warriors scenarios, you had like it was just essentially the Three Kingdoms, Wu, Shu, and Wei. Like, later games added some, like, a special scenario with Lu Bu. There's, like, the Jin scenario, which has one of my favorite characters, Sima Zhao. It essentially could have, like, a special scenario where it's, like, the Fire Emblem scenario, the Awakening scenario, the Fates scenario. And you unlock, like, and eventually you can, like, unlock that but you unlock, like, characters, like, say... you unlock characters like someone who wasn't there, so you can put them in free play. Like, hey, let's put Linda's in the Fire Emblem Awakening scenario. But I feel like this might be its own original story, not like necessarily. It's like they're putting all these scenarios for these scenarios. You're playing out the scenarios in Fire Emblem.
So I guess while we're on the topic of Fire Emblem, I guess we can quickly talk about the other news that came out of the Fire Emblem Direct that occurred 6 days after the Switch presentation. So, for anyone watching, you're probably thinking, you two are Fire Emblem fans, why would you want to talk about that Direct? Well, I personally find all of these other announcements rather fascinating. I don't know about you.
Well, Fire Emblem Warriors got me sold when I saw Braum beat the shit out of the whole world.
This Direct had way more news and info than I expected, so... Fire Emblem Heroes, the mobile game that's coming out at the beginning of February. I don't have much to say about it since I don't know enough about Fire Emblem's typical battle system to appreciate or dislike what's different about it, aside from your characters don't permanently die when they're defeated. I like the artwork of the characters. I like how they have it so fans can vote for characters they want to see in the game. I'm just mostly curious as to how well it will do.
Well, as long as they can outbeat, like, something like Final Fantasy VII, Final Fantasy All the Brainwaves, which was apparently, like, +$, +$. Do I get Chrome? No, you get Shinto Show. Huh? Well, Final Fantasy XI. But this is Fire Emblem. God!
There's Fire Emblem Echoes Shadows of Valentia, a 3DS remake of Fire Emblem Gaiden. That was probably the most shocking announcement to me from the Direct. I have heard of Fire Emblem Gaiden, and I knew it was only released in Japan, so when I heard that Fire Emblem Echoes was a remake of this, I could just imagine that Western fans are over the moon that one of the numerous Japanese-only Fire Emblem games is making its way to the West, but as a remake, no less. But it gets crazier with the fact that the dual protagonists of this game... Alm and Celica are getting amiibo that are coming out the same day as this game, which is why I wouldn't be surprised if they were in Fire Emblem Warriors.
Or Smash Brothers.
Yeah, like... So, assuming we do get a port of Smash 4 to the Switch, I guess we're looking at our newest fighters get hyped.
Yep. More Fire Emblem.
It's really crazy to see these characters that... I don't know how well known they are among the fans, but to have them as very obscure characters, at least to a non-fan like me, coming out of nowhere as amiibo is unbelievable. Oh yeah, the release dates, I've heard sort of conflicting things. Like, I've heard that it's releasing worldwide on May 20th, but I read on Silconera that it's coming out in Japan April 20th and coming out March 19th. If I said May 19th before, I meant to say May 19th before, but either way, the fact that we could have a Fire Emblem game that's either coming out worldwide or localized to the West just a month later, that's huge for this series. Yeah. Because, like, only having to wait a month or not having to wait for the release outside of Japan at all is, like, it just shows, like, how much more Nintendo has focused on localization and everything. That's why I'm kind of not worried about, like, the fact that it's region free means, like, oh, we don't have to localize it because they could just import it. Yeah, so I'm glad that that's happening. And probably the biggest piece of news, other than that, is that there's going to be a brand new Fire Emblem game for the Nintendo Switch planned for release in 2018. That's pretty huge, considering the last time a Fire Emblem game was released on a home console was Radiant Dawn on the Wii. That came out in 2008, so
it was a sequel to the wasn't it a sequel to the GameCube game?
Yeah. So if this new game does come out in 2018, it will be a decade since they had a Fire Emblem game on a home console, the 10th anniversary of Radiant Dawn. Fans have been wanting a home console Fire Emblem game for so long, and this will be the first Fire Emblem game in HD as well, excluding Fire Emblem Wars, because that's a spinoff.
Like, and not only is a Fire Emblem that it's on a console, it's a Fire Emblem you can still put on your handheld.
So, I think it's a really exciting time to be a Fire Emblem fan. Last year, when Nintendo said they consider Fire Emblem to be a major franchise for them now, they weren't blowing smoke at all. And to think that this franchise almost died, I'm kind of wondering if fans are starting to think that it's too much, or if Nintendo's kind of pouring out the series now. In a weird way, I consider that to sort of be a good thing, because that's what people will say about Mario, Pokemon, and Zelda, and those are Nintendo's biggest franchises, so being associated with those just further proves how big Fire Emblem is now.
Yeah. You can rub elbows with Super Mario, the Hero Link, and the mouse Pokemon Pikachu. You must be getting somewhere.
Anyway, back to the Switch presentation. Next was the third-party section, which I think is where the presentation kind of fell flat. Although there were a couple really great announcements. I thought it started off kind of nicely. They first said for Japan they got a reconfirmation of Dragon Quest X and 11 coming to the Switch, but they also announced that Dragon Quest Heroes 1 and 2 will be coming to the Switch, so that's even more Musou-style games right there.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure Dragon Quest Heroes has been released in the West when it was on PlayStation consoles, so I think the Switch versions will be localized. Dragon Quest 10 and 11, especially 10, I don't know when, if ever, they'll be localized. Square Enix also has a new game that is known as Project Octopath Traveler, which stood out to me just because of its art style. I really like the art style of that game. That hand-drawn artwork of the characters looks like the Bravely Default games, so this has to be something being produced by Silicon Studio. I've heard great things about the Bravely games, so it's cool to see them branch out a bit and try something that's at least a little different. We got a teaser trailer for what I'm going to assume is Shin Megami Tensei 5. I mean, it might not be, but I do know that it's a new Shin Megami Tensei game celebrating its 25th anniversary. And that's pretty cool. I know a lot of people enjoyed Shin Megami Tensei 4, and this one being done for a home console in HD is probably really exciting for the fans. Bethesda made 100% confirmation of Skyrim coming to the Nintendo Switch, and it's coming this fall. EA has FIFA coming to the Nintendo Switch, which... Yeah. I mean, people will give EA a bunch of crap, deservedly so. Yeah, and yet people will still buy their sports games in droves, and Nintendo hasn't had any of their sports games in a very long time, so I guess it's good that that Nintendo's getting at least one of them. I don't really care about the game either way.
Yeah, I don't want nothing to do with VA since a lot of reasons. One of them being Chronicles.
Yeah, we're not getting into that. I'm not even going to, clarify that for people. The third-party game that I think people were easily the most excited about was with Suda51 announcing that there will be a new No More Heroes game coming to the Nintendo Switch. I know people really, really love No More Heroes 1 and 2, so having another one after all this time is pretty sweet for them. I don't know if it'll be an exclusive or not. If it is, then that's going to be a nice selling point for the Nintendo Switch.
Yeah, everyone's favorite otaku assassin, Travis Touchdown. Moe.
So, towards the end of the presentation, they had a sizzle reel that contained a few other surprises that we'll talk about in a bit, but then we eventually and finally saw the trailer for The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild.
The shit gets intense.
Yeah, the trailer that they showed to end this presentation was just top notch. It was such an intense, emotional trailer. I think the voice acting, which I think was great in Japanese and even in English, it really added to the trailer.
And I just find that really funny and a little sad that they haven't, that you can say, fuck all that, walk right to Calamity Ganon and just not even give a shit if you didn't want to. It feels kind of bad where you have so much intense shit happening.
And the way the footage was cut together and the music, it was just such a phenomenal trailer. It gave me goosebumps, and it left me wanting this game now more than ever before. And we got to see Zelda finally. I absolutely love her design in this game, and her characterization in this game is looking to be her most compelling one ever. I so want to get her amiibo for this game. I really want all of Zelda's amiibos, actually. Her Smash Brothers amiibo, her Wind Waker amiibo, and this one. Of course, the trailer confirmed at the very end what many people expected for the longest time, is that Breath of the Wild is in fact the launch title for the Nintendo Switch, and it really is about as fantastic of a launch title as you can get.
Was essentially an HD Zelda 1. You're essentially going back to like HD Zelda 1 where the world is pretty open.
And modernizing it to like the most max degree.
Like it's an iPod. The Sheikah Slate is essentially your glorified iPod.
I don't mean just that, but like the gameplay elements as well. The Wii U version is also going to be releasing on the same day. Nintendo confirmed that. But the Wii U version is not going to be getting the special and master editions of this game. The special edition will have a copy of the game, a 24-song soundtrack CD, a Sheikah Eye collector's coin, a Nintendo Switch Sheikah Slate carrying case, and relic of Hyrule Tapestry / map. The master edition includes all those items plus a Master Sword of Resurrection statue. The special edition is $100, while the master edition is $130. I don't think Nintendo has done limited editions quite like this. It all looks pretty awesome. I wouldn't be surprised if they're both sold out at this point.
Yeah.
I also want to talk about the treehouse footage that demonstrated wild horse taming. For some reason, I didn't even imagine that Nintendo would add this amount of depth to horse gameplay. You can tame wild horses and get them to obey you. It's actually kind of like how you had to tame Epona in Twilight Princess. But there's
on a 24/7 basis, because don't run at the horse or it's just gonna kick you like you would. Well, in real life, you never want to get behind a horse or it just kicks you. You make sure the horse knows you're there at all times, so you don't scare it and make it.
But there's a bit more to it here in this game. Then you can bring it to one of the several stables around Hyrule and register it. You can give the horse a name and look at its stats. Horses have stats in this game. They can have different strengths, speed, stamina, and temperaments. You even have an affinity level with the horse. I've never been so excited for a Zelda game. I'm really glad it's a launch title for the Nintendo Switch. It's so amazing seeing that it's so close to releasing. We've been waiting for 4 years for this game since they announced it in like January 2013, and it looks like it's going to absolutely, positively be well worth the wait. Let's talk about some of the games that weren't, or sort of weren't, part of the presentation. It was confirmed that after the presentation that Sonic Mania would be coming to the Nintendo Switch. That doesn't surprise me at all, but I'm glad it was confirmed.
Because Sega realizes that despite that console war, that Blue Hedgehog sells really well on Nintendo consoles.
Yeah. When it was first announced this past July, I saw so many people hoping that it would at least make its way to the 3DS because it looks like such a perfect handheld game. So now that it's on the Switch, people can play it on the go or on their television. And on top of how much buzz Sonic Mania is getting, and like you said, Sonic is historically more successful on Nintendo consoles, I think a lot of Nintendo Switch players are going to be purchasing Sonic Mania by the time it comes out this spring. I think the biggest surprise to come out of this entire Nintendo Switch event is Super Bomberman R. A brand new Bomberman game, and it's also a launch title. I noticed Bomberman in the sizzle reel that they did towards the end of the presentation, but I thought it was just an older game. I didn't know, since I don't really play Bomberman, but later I saw the trailer of it and the comments of people just being so excited about a new Bomberman game. And I was just thinking, wait, what? This is a brand new Bomberman game? And it looks like a Bomberman game. It's not Bomberman Zero Survive or something really stupid like that.
It's not Bomberman X Zero Survive.
It's a good old-fashioned Bomberman game, and it's a launch title.
And Konami's part of when Konami is actually letting a hand in this.
Only Nintendo would be baller enough to basically go, hope you enjoyed our presentation. By the way, brand new Bomberman game at launch. See you next time.
You're welcome.
According to an article I read on Zelda, Super Bomberman R was made as a joint effort between some former Bomberman developers, Konami, and Nintendo, so Nintendo was a big reason why this game got made.
Yeah.
It's going to support the 8-player local co-op that the Switch has, and that sounds pretty sweet too. Breath of the Wild is going to be the launch title for the Nintendo Switch, but I think Super Bomberman R is going to be a smaller yet strong game, just because people have wanted a new Bomberman game that wasn't mobile. And it's been such a long time since a Bomberman game like this has come out. Another weird surprise was Ultra Street Fighter 2, The Final Challengers. It's a new definitive edition of Street Fighter 2 that adds Evil Ryu and Violent Ken and the ability to switch between the original graphics and the HD graphics shown by Udon. There are also going to be new modes added to this game as well. It's apparently going to be a $40 game though, but insert joke about Street Fighter V like content here.
Yeah.
So I guess you could technically say, by comparison, it's worth the price.
Yeah, it's more worth the Street Fighter V.
I did want to make mention of Puyo Tetris. I was looking at the trailer for it. It's essentially a weird crossover of Puyo and Tetris. Depending on the mode, you can play Puyo by itself, you can play Tetris by itself, you can compete against someone by having one player play Puyo and the other playing Tetris. You can play it so it literally goes back and forth between Puyo and Tetris as you play. You can play it where both the Puyo and the Tetris blocks are on your board at the same time. I like how they came up with a bunch of different ways to combine both of the games. I also love how vibrant and colorful it looks.
This sounds like it sounds like certain modes become an utter mess. Where you have, particularly one where you have both at the same time.
I am, however, much more of a paneled upon Puzzle League kind of player, so this doesn't really suit me. Yeah, so this doesn't really suit me, but I think the concept is cool. The Treehouse showed this game called Has Been Heroes, which is a really weird... It's like an action slash strategy RPG. It looks like a very simplistic game when watching it, probably because they have one of the guys behind the game playing it. But the guys they have emphasized that this game will kill you a lot, and that it's actually sort of benefits you to die, apparently.
Dark Souls.
And then there are hundreds of unlockables too. There looks like there's a lot more to this game than meets the eye. I can see some people getting into this game. There was also the game Snipperclips, Cut It Out Together, which not only looks adorable, but I love how it works as a puzzle game, where there are multiple ways to solve puzzles that are presented to you, and you can shape yourself the way you want in order to solve a puzzle, and there seems to be quite a variety to these puzzles. I liked what I saw of this. I'm assuming it's a downloadable title only, but if I could download it, I'd play it.
I wasn't really interested in puzzle platforms, but I did like those scenes where you could just you had to make a ball and shoot it in a net like a basketball. They just go and how that worked.
I think the last game we should talk about, it's kind of weird we're saving this for last, is Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, the definitive edition of Mario Kart 8. It includes all the DLC that was released for Mario Kart 8, but it also has new characters, which are King Boo, Dry Bones, Bowser Jr., Inkling Girl, and Inkling Boy. It's going to have new vehicles, returning items, the Cape Feather and Bow, along with a double item slot, and a new battle mode with new/returning battle-specific courses, one of them being Urchin Underpass from Splatoon, and that's such a great battle course choice because Splatoon's arenas are already battle courses in their own way anyway.
Yeah.
I'm not too big on battle mode in the Mario Kart series. I've always strongly preferred racing over battles, but the battle mode in Mario Kart 8 was either the biggest criticism or for some people the only criticism of that game because it took place in the Grand Prix race courses for some strange reason.
Yeah.
And that doesn't really work for Mario Kart's battle mode. You need a more open arena-styled course for something like that, and we're finally getting that for this game. And there are going to be multiple types of battle modes as well. It all looks great, but I think the biggest point of contention for people other than it being a Wii U port is it's not entirely clear if there are going to be any new Grand Prix race courses. Some things have kind of indicated there aren't going to be any new Grand Prix courses, but we don't know for sure as of right now. For us, it's not a big deal either way because we couldn't get any of the DLC, so the fact that Mario Kart 8 Deluxe has all the DLC plus these new characters, vehicles, and a better battle mode, it's well worth a purchase for us.
Yeah.
So, just to give my final thoughts on everything, the Nintendo Switch hardware really is made up of just about all of the defining features of every Nintendo system they made up to this point. I love that it can be played as a handheld and a home console. And the tech within the Joy-Con itself, I think, is really impressive. I'm really happy that we have motion control capabilities. I'm really liking the lineup of games. Super Mario Odyssey, The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, and Fire Emblem Warriors are my most anticipated games right now. But I'm also looking forward to Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. I want to see more of Splatoon 2, and I do want to try out ARMS. What do you think?
Fire Emblem Warriors is definitely a game I'm looking forward to. Because I grow to love the Warriors style games.
What do you think of the hardware?
The hardware is pretty crazy. I really do like how versatile it is. Where you could just take the Joy-Con out. You can take them out of the system. You can put them on the system. You can take them out of the system and just play it with just on attachment, or just hold them up like a Wii remote nunchuck. I still like that about how Swiss Army knife this console is.
We both decided that we're going to get the Nintendo Switch, hopefully around when Mario Kart 8 Deluxe releases, because we feel like that's a great time for us to get it, plus it's more financially friendly for us and our family at that time. As much as I want to play Breath of the Wild at launch, I have some backlog games I really want to take care of before playing Breath of the Wild, because that's going to take up so much of my time. Plus, I actually want to play through Skyward Sword again before playing Breath of the Wild, and I think I do want to get the Switch version of Breath of the Wild, because by the time I'll want to play it, we'll likely have the Nintendo Switch at that point, so I might as well get the Switch version, but I'm very excited. Are you excited?
Yeah.
Anyway, let's just end this video already. I'm sure this will end up being one of the longer videos I'll upload, so this has been Espionic.
Yeah, this is probably 4. Wait for Fire Emblem Warriors.
Yeah, me too. And this is where we say goodbye.
See ya, and share the joy.